Ethereum is battling a censorship resistance battle right now. There's this thing called MEV relays, and essentially they're an undergirding part of how Ethereum works, how it sends stablecoins, how it deposits DeFi, how blocks are built, how transactions happen. And there's this debate over if you need to be compliant with international finance regulations. Some people say yes, some people say no, but right now we have a code base that is mostly saying yes. Over the weekend, 51% of validators started to choose to work with OFAC compliant relays. In essence, that means that all these relays, or all these validators rather, are choosing to go with OFAC compliance over non-OFAC compliance because they want to make more money. You make more money by being compliant in this instance, which traditionally is not the case, but it is happening here. And now everyone's wondering, well, is this the future of Ethereum? Is everyone going to be profit incentivized to go and follow the rules, the OFAC rules, and follow international guidance on finance? Or can Ethereum turn back to its more cypherpunk basis and, skirt the rules a little bit? A lot of people wanted to skirt the rules. Should be a neutral network for settlement of any type of transaction, just like on Bitcoin. Wendy, I want to throw this one over to you. It's a pretty complex story, but I think at its basis, it's very cypherpunk and very Bitcoin, very crypto-y. Should transactions be allowed to be sent anywhere to anyone, or should the base layer be able to censor somebody?
So I think that transactions should be able to be sent to anyone, anywhere, because I believe operating in a true decentralized economy. However, most people, especially humans, are not capable of doing that because it does require critical thinking and it does require a lot of maturity. However, we have a lot of these regulations that are coming into play. And let's face it, the people that are building these protocols are absolutely outstanding, and they do not want to go do time or get in trouble or get fined because most of them probably have families and they value their lives, they value their livelihood. And I can respect that and I can get behind that. I also do think that the merge over from proof of work to proof of stake was carefully coordinated as a way for the folks that are kind of involved with Ethereum, especially early days, so that they can kind of get away from any type of punishment that they might get into later on for having this decentralized thing. With that being said, if you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is probably our best hope for a true decentralized economy because we don't know who the founder is and there's really kind of no one to go after. So I understand why they're going to want to be compliant. But yes, it does go against the cypherpunk movement and the need to operate in a true decentralized economy. And I don't blame them. I have a family. I don't want to do anything wrong and potentially get in trouble and be separated from my kid. Zach?
This is a super fascinating topic, and I think, rightly, a lot of people are starting to pay more attention to it. I would really put in a plug for a talk by Eric Wall at DevCon. DevCon in Bogota just wrapped up, and he had a very compelling presentation about this and why the Ethereum community needs to sort of rally around some of those foundational principles of uncensorable internet services, right? That's what this comes down to. I think we can zoom out and we can say, okay, OFAC, these are bad guys, these are terrorists, according to the US government. But in a decentralized world, the US government shouldn't necessarily be able to dictate how this software platform operates and to whom it is accessible, right? So zooming out from the particulars of what OFAC and the sanction list is trying to accomplish here, what I think we need to be cognizant of is the fact that truly value-neutral platforms probably should exist in some way, shape, or form going into the future. And for a lot of OG crypto people, this is potentially that big moment to rally around some of these issues as Ethereum goes to proof of stake, as the validators operating this, offering these services become known, doxed in crypto parlance. This is something that is going to become a really interesting issue to watch and see if there's any sort of consensus around that 49% or what I think it's like 43% now who are resisting sort of the imperative to censor some of these transactions from these wallets that have been flagged by US officials. So this is going to get really super interesting. We saw a little bit of chatter about this right when the merge happened, and now we're seeing it kind of bear out with some hard data. I think it's going to be really fascinating to see if this conversation escalates or where it goes from here. But time will tell. I definitely want to throw this to Will for his thoughts.
Yeah, the interesting thing right now is, one, there's a bunch of teams working on Ethereum that are working on this specific problem, and a lot of them are US based. And if you're US based and you're going into OFAC, that might not be great. We just saw 2 months ago when the Tornado Cash developer was arrested in the Netherlands. Now he's been in prison for, I think, going on 3 months, still waiting on some sort of judgment or jury trial and what's going to happen to him. Some of his property has been seized. It's not great to be on the wrong side of the law. And especially in this instance, we don't really know what the law is because it's all new stuff. no one really knew that Tornado Cash was bad until they just randomly decreed that they didn't want it anymore, and then they put someone in jail. So for anyone who's developing on Ethereum, I think they're very cognizant of that. They're looking at Tornado Cash and be like, hey, this is a warning. Much like the SEC, when they go and smack down projects, and other projects are like, hey, we don't want to touch that anymore. I think you're seeing that with regulation right now around OFAC compliance. And I think the next question, though, as well, is what is the future of this problem? Because right now, the hard stats show that over 50% of validators are choosing to go with the OFAC compliant relays, but they're doing that out of profit incentive. They're not doing it because they necessarily want to be compliant. They're doing it because it makes more money to be compliant at this point. What if it changes the other way? Does it go back and Ethereum is more safe? Or is it just like an instance in time where things are going one way versus the other? I think we need a little bit more information to bear fruit in the subject. The last point I'd like to make is, you can still get blocks through that are not OFAC compliant pretty easily. Even if 95% of Ethereum was OFAC compliant, well, 5% of blocks would get through that were not compliant. And that's still a decent amount of transactions. So we don't quite know where this story is going to wrap up. But like you said, Zach, it's starting to definitely heat up in developer circles. Jen, I'll give it to you for last thought, though.
Yeah, you guys covered everything I wanted to talk about. If we increase censorship more and more, we're just really replicating the same problems we're trying to solve with this technology. So it's just so saddening to see the fact that we still don't have regulation. Obviously, people don't want to go to jail. If people are in jail, we can't continue to build. We can't continue to innovate. And so we have to be compliant. And I feel like we're stuck between this rock and a hard place. And I completely agree. It will be really interesting to watch how this story unfolds.